This is the new Ford Capri, and already, before we start, it has a problem. And I'm not talking about its name, which we will come back to, but it's a much more basic and fundamental thing than that. What is it? Well, time to find out. As I say, welcome to this week's road test review, welcome to the new Ford Capri, and as always, welcome to AutoEV. Now, before I do get started on this week's road test review of Ford's new Capri, yes, you've guessed it folks, it's the time where I would ask you just to make sure that you're subscribed to the AutoEV channel. Then once you've done that, also make sure that you've pressed the little bell button that's down below, because that's the way you'll get notified of when the next video that we do is uploaded and it's gone live. Once you've watched this week's review, if you do enjoy it, and obviously I hope you do, then give it a little thumbs up, and of course, don't forget, I'm sure you won't with this one, leave me your thoughts in the comment section down below. Let me know what you think about the cars that we feature on the channel, such as the new Ford Capri, and as always on the AutoEV channel on the whole. It was bound to happen, wasn't it? Just like it did when those folks that live on that big massive land north of the Gulf of Mexico went apoplectic when Ford stuck the Mustang badge on an electric SUV. Us lot from Blighty were going to do the same and go into a state of valve bounce when they applied the Capri badge to an electric SUV. Because let's be honest, it has got quite a legacy, the Capri moniker, doesn't it? You can hardly see Bodie and Doyle chasing down some crims in this, can you? Let's be blunt about it. But in fairness, as I said, it's not really the main problem that I have with this car, which we will get on to. And there's another thing that I thought about when I saw that Ford were calling it the Capri, in the sense that the name badge, it hasn't been around since the late 1980s. You know, it's not like it's replaced the Capri, the sort of like the coupe one that we all know and love. And the target market for this car has probably never ever driven a Capri, probably never even been in a Capri in some respects. So I don't think it's the name that really is the issue with this car. So what is it? But as always, let's take a look at the main points on the car before we start the full review. So the new Capri is a 5-door fastback style coupe SUV based upon similar underpinnings to the new Explorer, a mid-sized electric SUV. 3 models are available, ranging from a 52 kilowatt-hour battery single motor car to the 79 kilowatt-hour dual motor car that we have here. The car is capable of up to 389 miles on a single charge in its most efficient format, according to WLTP figures. Depending on mechanical configuration, 2 trim levels are available. And it's priced from just over £42,000 up to £56,000, depending on model and before options are fitted. So, to borrow Ford's old marketing slogan, is this new Capri the car you always promised yourself? Well, it's time to find out as we put it through the road test that actual car buyers trust when it comes to choosing their next electric vehicle. The professionals one. No, it's the AutoEV one. But you see what I did there? Right, let's start with the way the car looks. Now, I must admit, I'm not one of these people that sort of like buys into sort of like styling departments saying, oh, this is the inspiration for this car, you know, the old car being the inspiration for that, or whatever. That's why we've designed it like we have. In fairness to Ford, they've not really talked a lot about that. There is one area down the side that they say is a nod to the original Capri, which I'll show you obviously we go down the side profile. But in fairness, they have stayed away from that part a little bit with regards to its looks, okay? So, what does it look like? It's a bit bland for me, if I'm being blunt about it. Okay, now, okay, I get we're not going to be standing here comparing it to your dad's old 2.8 injection from 1987, but you know what I mean. They could have taken some more styling cues from it just to evoke some memories, like they did with the Mustang Mach-E. Now, you see, that's a thing. And now we're going to go on and talk about this a bit later on, with the Mustang Mach-E. It looks like part of the Mustang family, you know, with this cowled headlights, the sort of grille shape and all the rest of it. They've not done that with the Capri. And obviously it is based on the same underpinnings as the Explorer, a car we're going to be testing next week. But yeah, it just doesn't tie it in with the rest of the family. I don't quite get what they've done. Obviously you've got your twin sort of like headlights here behind this cowl. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's what they're saying, you know. And this black area here, that's designed to sort of like, you know, maybe that's designed to evoke memories of the grille shape on the old Mark III Capri. But that would be silly, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it? Anyway, you've got the big Ford logo sort of like, you know, inset into that sort of like black strip between the headlights, and the Capri nameplate embossed into that front bumper. But it sits quite high, doesn't it? I mean, that's my hip level there. Look, the front bonnet's way higher than my hip. It is, or they're trying to say it is, a sporty SUV. You've got a camera embedded in the black strip there, which is a good place to put it. And obviously the black, gloss black, cooling down at the bottom there. There's some quite nice little sort of like cutouts just here that take airflow around the side and down the, you know, down the side of the car there. But yeah, the overall look I think is a little bit bland. What I am grateful for is they've put some sort of like quite spicy colours in it. You know, there's a real vivid yellow in it. This blue, which is an option in fairness, and we'll talk about that later on, is called Blew My Mind. I don't think I've gone that far, but I quite like the fact they've called something, they've given it a little bit of a fun name. I just wish they'd styled it with a bit more fun at the front, that's all. Now, as we go down the side of the car, let's talk about sort of like its market sector. So they're saying this is a medium-sized crossover, coupe SUV, whatever you want to call them these days. In other words, it is to sort of like the Explorer, what the ID5 is to the ID4 in some respects, because the car is actually a little bit longer than an Explorer. It's 20 centimetres long. The wheelbase is the same, but the car itself is 20 centimetres longer. So it is a physically longer car than the Explorer is, okay? And as I say, I just don't really see that. I don't know, yes it sits quite high, but SUV? Oh well, there you go. Okay, obviously you get your gloss black wheel arch extensions there, and obviously down the side of the car. Sorry, it keeps locking it and unlocking itself because I've got the key in my pocket. This is the bit here they say is the nod to the original Capri. That window line there, that curved window line there. But I think this bit here is a massive nod to the Polestar 2. Tell me I'm wrong, but that's all I see when I look at this rear three-quarter is a Polestar 2. And again, that's another issue that I think that this car has, but I promise we will talk about that. 19-inch wheels are standard on the base car, then 20s on the next grade up. These are optional 21-inch wheels, so you can go onto these optional 21-inch wheels. And then you get your gloss black sort of like stripped down at the bottom. The doors themselves don't quite wrap under the sill. They open to the sill, but it's not ridiculously bad. You know, it's like they stop there, so they go down a little bit further. And you get nice big kind of standout door mirrors with little cameras embedded into them there, as you'd expect. And again, very, very similar to Polestar. You've got this visor graphic, haven't you? You know, Kia did that with the EV6. Polestar did it. Saab used to do it. You know, where you've got this blacked out pillar here. The A pillar's blacked out, so is the B pillar, and it looks like a visor on a sort of like a racing helmet. That's the idea behind it, so designers tell me. But yeah, oh well. Now in fairness, the rear's not bad, yeah? I don't mind the rear so much of the car. You've got a tiny little upsweep in the boot lid there in the hatch that just has a little flick there. And again, you know, you've got this sort of like clear perspex. It's not a light bar, obviously, because the lights are at this side here, but it's clear perspex there with the Capri lettering through it, which is a nod to the original Capri lettering as well, the way that was stylised. And again, like the front, you've got the twin rear lights, which are quite nice. You know, they look quite good, and I quite like just the big simple Ford badge at the top there. No rear wiper. But then I suppose in some respects none of these cars have a rear wiper, you know, these kind of coupe style SUVs, because the airflow is designed just to whip it off. Low set number plate down there, reverse camera there, and again the gloss black bit down there. So as I say, I don't mind the back end of the car so much, but look at that, just, you tell me that's not a Polestar 2 at that angle there. Look, you've probably gathered I'm not the Capri's biggest lover when it comes to the way that it looks. It's all right. It's not bad looking, okay? It's not a bad looking car. I just don't think it's that good looking. I don't think it evokes enough memories of the original car. Now I get they're not trying to do that. In some respects, they haven't come along and said its design is there to evoke memories of the original Capris and things like that. I get it, it's a different class of car. But look at how other people are doing their retro designs at the moment. Renault with the 5, Fiat with the 500, you know, even Mini in some respects, you know. And I think BMW with their new cars that's coming out, this new class, you know, the small saloon car, it's going to design to sort of look like those original sort of like small compact sports saloons of the 70s. You know, they're going away from the bloated look and they're getting back to that original look. I just feel they could have tried a bit harder with this car. I like the fact it comes in nice bright colours. I do like that, you know, and I say there are certain elements of it that is quite nice. But I just don't think it's as good looking as it should be. But it doesn't really matter what I think, does it? Because I'm not buying the car. But you might be. You might be out there looking at this review thinking, I think I might go and buy myself a new Ford Capri. I wonder what Brian thinks about it. Don't worry what I think about the look of it. What do you think about it? Tell me your thoughts in the comment section down below. Now, you're probably going to be aware, and if you're not, and this is news to you, apologies, spoiler alert, this is built on Volkswagen's MEB platform. Ford and Volkswagen have got a technical tie-up now. The new Volkswagen Transporter is effectively built on Transit platform, and some of the cars that Ford are building, such as the Explorer and the Capri, come on the MEB platform. Good and a bad thing, in my opinion. More of which later on. But it does mean that it's going to be a very practical car, because pretty much all these medium-sized SUVs that are on the MEB platform, such as the ID4, the ID5, the Skoda Enyaq, you know, they're all good in terms of the boot space. And the Capri is no different to that. So you get 570 litres of boot space back here, which is excellent. It's a really good size of boot, and as you can see, we've got 4 AutoEV suitcases in there, plus the camera bag, plus the tripod bag, plus extra bits and pieces down there, and we could probably cram more in if we really needed to in some respects. This also extends through a 60-40 split rear bench up to 1,510 litres. So in terms of practicality, the Capri is very, very good in that sense, okay? And it's not just sort of like the overall practicality of it, as I remove the said suitcases from the boot as well. You've also got other little nice little features back here, which I always quite like, and I always think it's quite a handy little things to have sometimes. You know, so for instance, down the side here, I've got my drone bag, but you've got a little sort of like bucket there which just sits down and that, you know, you can put things in there. There's a false floor as well, so when you lift that up, there's your cable storage. Oh, he pulls it out. So you could actually remove that floor, you know, and get taller items in there as well. Your cable store underneath there. So that's good as well, and you can do that fully through there. There's a ski hatch through the back. There's a 12-volt power takeoff there. There's also hooks at the side to hang things from. There's a deep little well there. There's a rubber, sort of elasticated strap there as well. So in fairness, when it comes to practicality, the Capri features very, very well within class. However, there's no space underneath the front bonnet. There's nothing at the front of the car. Even this, although this is a dual motor car, even in a single motor car, there's no space up at the front. But I think for most families, that's going to be more than enough. My only slight beef with this part of the car is, listen. Why does it make that noise? Now, as you'd expect, the rear of the car is quite commodious because of the type of size of car that it is. However, we do stumble across a slight issue there. Is this door opening isn't particularly wide. That is quite a narrow door opening, considering the size of car that it is, considering the amount of space that you do have there. So again, elderly people stepping into the car, you know, if you're loading in a child into with an actual baby seat and you've got it in your hands, that is quite a narrow gap to get that through, I would suggest. So just be aware of that. However, once you're in, there's plenty of room back here. Now, the only thing I will say is it's a flat floor, so again, you know, good amount of foot space in that sense. I do feel my feet are being pushed up, but I do think that on a lot of the MEB cars anyway. So it's not Ford that's at fault there in that sense. I can just get my boots underneath my driving position. My driving position's quite low, as you know. If you're a regular viewer, you know. And if you're a regular viewer, thank you. So yeah, so I struggle to get my feet underneath that a little bit. So anyway, that's okay. But there's plenty of leg space. There's plenty of headroom for me. This has also got the panoramic sunroof in it. It's making a beeping noise now. There's plenty of headroom for me. And the back bench, again, itself is all right. You know, it's fairly supportive. You've got a nice head restraint there for you to sit in. There is a centre armrest with 2 cup holders. As I say, remember, there's a ski hatch through as well. So if you're loading longer load items. You know, you've been to your local DIY emporium and you need to put some shelves through, you can do that. These fixing points for the Isofix, thank you Ford, they're just behind these plastic flip down covers, really nice and easy to get to, so that's good. The door bins are all right, they're probably enough for like a decent sized water bottle for the kids, and there's mat pockets on the backs of the front seats. There's also 2 USB-C ports at the back here, but there's no rear climate control in the car. Okay, now I'll talk a little bit about that when we move into the front and we start talking about equipment and stuff. But yeah, there's no rear climate control in the car, so it's just a dual zone climate control, front passenger and driver, that's it. There is face vents there, in fairness, and 2 USB-C ports there. You get usual grab handles and so forth. The panoramic roof does let a lot of light into the car, which is good because it does have a black headlining. So that does make it feel a little bit more spacious in the back here. So yeah, as I say, in terms of a family car, there's no real issues here. As I say, the floor just feels that little bit pushed up. Other than that, there's plenty of space, I would suggest, for a family of 4 or 5. And now we get to the first of some of my stumbling blocks with the new Capri. Okay, so look, I'm just going to talk you through it and the bits that, you know, that irk me a little bit. As I say, this is built on Volkswagen's MEB platform. So unfortunately, there's an awful lot of Volkswagen bits in here, okay? And I'm a bit annoyed about that. And I'll tell you why I'm a bit annoyed about it. Because I remember way back, you know, I used to sell Citroens back in the early 1990s. And we were about to launch Xantia, and the Mondeo was about to launch as well. And we were pooing ourselves. Because, you know, the Mondeo came out and everyone said, oh, you know, it's so easy to use, lovely to drive, and the controls. You know, we were selling cars that had weird buttons and all sorts of things like that. Ford used to be really good at ergonomics. Ford used to be brilliant at stuff like that. You know, big chunky light switches, you know, nice sort of like easy controls. You know, even the original sort of 1980s Granadas and Scorpios and things, you know, the buttons were nice and easy to use, you know, the climate. And they've moved away from all that and they've let Volkswagen do the switchgear on this car. And that is a massive mistake in my book, okay? Now, I'll get on to that later because it is a beef. And actually, believe it or not, if you didn't think it could be worse than Volkswagen do it, Ford have managed to make it actually worse in some respects, okay? So that's my first problem with it. The overall design of it, I quite like. Actually, I quite like the design of the inside of the car. You know, it's a nice, you know, I quite like this dashboard, the way it curves around, this sort of two-tone finish on it, the vent that runs across there, this B&O, you know, obviously on this particular model here, this, you know, that's like a sound bar across the dashboard that's also almost like the binnacle for the driver's display. Great, love that, that's fantastic. You know, and in some respects, the seating position with your armrest and things like that, you know, that's good, you know, and there's a lot of storage in the car and things like that. But then when you start to actually live with it, like I have been this week, and start to use it, all the little faults start to come. Well, not faults, but all the design flaws, let's call it that, because it's not a faulty car. But all the little idiosyncrasies that just shouldn't really be there. You know, considering how much, you know, we all bemoan the fact Volkswagen's touch sensitive this and swipe that. Why have they gone and done this? And it just smacks of almost, we just can't be bothered. We'll just lift it straight from, we'll buy the job lot for VW and the job is done. That's what annoys me about it. It's not even like they're trying to disguise it. You know, you can see here that the transmission lever is straight from the IDs, that's it. Which means that the indicator stock and the wiper stock is the same. So it's got Volkswagen, and this is the silly stuff that annoys me, and I know it might sound daft, but you notice details. Like the font used on this is Volkswagen, but the font used on other bits of it is Ford. And it doesn't match. Just silly stuff. And that's the problem then when we discuss the price. Right, that's my sort of like argument in some respects out of the way, but I'm going to go deeper into it. You've got the binnacle here, the driver's display, straight from the IDs, okay? And it's through this sort of like squircle wheel, squared off circular wheel, which again has these infernal touch sensitive controls, which I keep hitting the heel of my hand on the heated steering wheel button, because actually where the button is placed is actually on sort of like the inner part of the rim, if that makes sense. So as you're driving like that and you turn a corner, I've hit it 3 or 4 times this week. I've turned the heated steering wheel on by mistake. And then it's got a sort of swipe, but then it also pulsates as well. It's just, I don't know. It's not the most intuitive thing to use. Mercedes have touch-sensitive buttons, and they're much nicer to use. So I'm not against touch-sensitive buttons, I just think these ones are bloody rubbish. They're just horrible. And why does it glow blue here, but the rest of it's all white? I don't get that. That's what I mean. It's the details that are just... Anyway, this squircle wheel, you look through into this little binnacle here. And again, that's the thing I'm disappointed with. The binnacle on the Mustang Mach-E, which Ford obviously have and build, why did they not use that? It's much nicer. But anyway, that's what you get. That's it there. This is, they say, the nod to the Capri on the inside with the sort of like the you know, this little metallic or metal third spoke on the wheel having the drilled alloy things like an old Motor-Lita wheel. Fair enough. This I quite like, the Sync 4 infotainment system. Now, let me just talk through it because it's not perfect in some respects, but in fairness, some of it's quite nice. It's got Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. And the other day I was going to film a secret new car in a studio, and I was using this, and I had timed it with the Apple CarPlay because I always use that, and Google Maps. The whole thing is the map when you're using Google Maps or Apple Maps, and I really like that. And the fact that it's in this portrait mode as well makes it really easy to follow. So I do like this screen. And when you go to sort of like, you know, the little sort of like icons here, when you press the button up there, it's not dissimilar to what Polestar do in the sense that they're laid out in a really easy grid. It's almost like, you know, you can't go wrong with that. You know, it's like a big, you know, those big telephones you buy your elderly parents now with the big numbers on them. It's a bit like that. You know, you can't fail to sort of like press one of the icons, you know. So as soon as you press it, it's there. You know, driver assistance, you know, stuff like that. Okay, I'm going to talk about that in a minute. So that's quite good, you know, and then you swipe between the two there. It's not the quickest. It's a bit laggy. I noticed that the other day. And sometimes I've had to do a couple of presses, but I like the design of it, and I like the fact that it's nice and big and clear and easy to see, especially if you wear Gregory's like I do. Right. You'll probably know this moves as well. So you can move that to it so it's it's an absolute upright position like it has in the Mustang Mach-E. But it doesn't have, that's the thing, you know, why has it not got the Mustang's lovely little volume control there? You end up having to use this swipey thing down here or the wheel. That would have made a massive difference. Anyway, if you move that, there's a storage bin in there, which is quite nice. And then when you fold that, or when you move it back down to there, and then it locks in this position, when you lock the car, if somebody breaks in, seemingly, you know, your purse or your wallet or your keys or whatever are locked in there, type of thing. But I don't mean to be rude, but if somebody's going to break into the Capri, they'll manage to break that and get in there without much trouble. So anyway, I don't think that's much. But I like the fact you've just got that wee hidden storage compartment. You keep your sweeties in there and the kids can't see them. That's good. And I just like the fact that that moves. I think that's quite cool. Now, you've got this, like again, like the Mustang Mach-E, you've got the climate controls in the screen as well. So they're down here and they're permanently on down at this bottom part here. So if you press the climate, there you go there. It brings up a much more detailed climate menu, okay? And you can go into things there like defog windows, cool my feet, warm my feet, all the rest of it, which I think you can ask the car to do as well. If you state this, the voice recognition will do that. But then you go, what did it do that? There you go. So there you go there. So you've got a more detailed climate menu in there as well. The inbuilt navigation is not bad. As I say, I've just been using Google Maps like I always do, but the actual inbuilt navigation itself isn't bad at all, in fairness. So, but you know, it depends what you prefer. Some people prefer Waze, some people prefer Google Maps like me. Doesn't matter. But I do like that. I like the layout of it. I quite like that it's relatively straightforward to use in the sense that everything's big and bold and you can see it. However, it isn't perfect, as you'd expect. Okay, let me show you why. So, the other day, we're driving along, and of course you want to do your usual things, such as turn off the annoying safety systems. So there we go there. So let's pretend I'm driving along. There I've got my navigation up and I want to turn off the speed limit assistance and the lane keep assist, okay? So two that I always do. Right, this is how you do it. You press this here, which brings you up with this menu here. Driver assistance, that's 1, 2, and how do you figure that out? There's your speed limit assistance. Then, so that was 3, 4 steps to turn that off. Then you've got to go back. Then you turn off your lane keep assist. Another, then you go back, drowsy warning, whatever, turn that off. Then you go back. It's too many layers. It's just too many things to do. Why is it so laborious to turn stuff off? It's just infuriating. You make it nice and big and bold and, dare I suggest, easy to read and all the rest of it. And then you bury stuff. It's just, I feel like I'm being really down on this car. I really do. But see, it's stuff like that that winds me right up. And I'll tell you why it winds me up more than anything else. Because 2.5 years ago, I was invited by Ford down to Dunton, their Dunton campus. And it's where they build transit. They showed me the new Explorer there before it had been seen anywhere. We were in a room and they said, look, we're going to be doing this. And they showed us that, but it's where they come up with all the stuff for transit. It's where the transit design is and all the rest of it. And they've got this department, and it's absolutely fascinating. The stuff that these guys and girls look at for transit drivers, the folding steering wheel, where you can make it a table to eat your lunch off, or you can make it sort of like go halfway between so you can work off a laptop or an iPad. Coat hooks there, and they look at how a transit driver uses their car or their van day to day and designs an interior around the driver to make it easier. Why have you not done that here? Why have you just taken the easy way out and just bought stuff in from Volkswagen, which we all know isn't actually that great, and put it in this? It's just infuriating when you've got all that stuff, all that resource that you're, sort of like available to you, and you haven't used it. The volume thing here, this is why it's worse, because it's now not sort of like on the screen here. It's on this horizontal plane here. And it's not the most intuitive thing to use, this swipey thing here. And as I say, you've got another volume one there. Why did you not embed a big volume knob like you did on the Mustang? Anyway, there we go. Right, another problem we've got. Wireless charging pad down here. There's one. The space looks like it's for two, but there's one. I have an iPhone 15 Pro Max, okay? I can't show you it because it's actually what I used to film with. And it has, I bought a case for it, just a clear plastic case that it sits on. It has got a slight rubber guard around it, so if I drop it, which happens sometimes, it doesn't smash. Every single time I put it in this wireless charger pad, it comes up here, it says wireless charging can't be activated because I've got a case on it. What's the use of that? Who doesn't have a case on their phone? Why? It's not a big wallet thing. I'd understand if it was one of those open wallets with credit cards in it and stuff. It's not. It's just a clear plastic case. It will not charge my phone because it comes up here and says it. You may have a case on your phone which is stopping this function. Of course I've got a case on my phone. Wee bit down there, next to the wireless charging pad, which I can't use for slotting other things into. Two big cup holders. I do like this. You get these rubber donut type things in there. They're not donuts, don't try and eat them. So if you've got a slightly smaller cup, or a slightly smaller takeaway cup, then obviously it doesn't make it drop in, you can easily get it out. But it takes my big Yeti cup. There's a good size of bin in here, which you can actually, hang on, I'll put this down here. Try and do this. This comes out. So you've got a much bigger, and you've got a centre divider, which is an ice scraper. Don't know why you did an ice scraper on an EV. But you could probably slot a big iPad down there, or maybe even a small laptop. But not with this in place. Got to leave that out. And that's the only other thing that annoys me. It's got that horrible piano black around it. Don't like piano black. I don't know how that fits back in. What have I done wrong? There we go. Right, the seat. That's the last thing I want to talk about. The seats themselves. Nice shape, nice design, not particularly special in fairness. They lack lateral support, I think. So they're comfortable enough in terms of, their sponginess and stuff. So you get a nice bit of sort of like support. Only electric on the driver's side on this car, not on the passenger side. It's a manual seat on the passenger side. Why? And as I say, they just lack a bit, so you do tend to find yourself rolling out of them if you do get a bit of spirited driving on. So yeah, oh, and quality. Quality's all right. It's not horrific. It's not bad. There's fairly nice materials up here. Slightly better quality plastic up there. This it's almost like a leatherette style covering there. This, I don't particularly like the carbon fibre effect, but it's better than piano black all the way down here. It's quite nice that. The seats themselves, the Sensico, I think they call it, material, which is nice on. It's that kind of diamond pattern as well, which is good. I don't mind that. Oh yeah, another thing, of course, my big bugbear, the electric window switches are straight from the ID, which means there's only 2 electric window switches. It means you've got to press one button to go in to use it, but just ridiculous. And that's it. They started so well. They designed something which I think actually is quite nice to look at. It's very different. I like this screen, this movable screen. As I say, in a lot of ways, it's easy to use. With the icons and stuff like that. But there's too many layers of various stuff. Then they go and fit ridiculous Volkswagen switchgear, which everyone knows and everyone that complains about. But they've put it on this car and charged a huge amount of money for the car. So, it's a real missed opportunity here. And as I say, I know that Ford can do better. That's the annoying thing. I know they can, because I've been to their factory, I've been to their design department, where people sit and do this thing day after day, talking to people who use their cars and going, how can we make it better? Well, nobody has asked anybody how they can make this better, because this is disappointing in its usability. Great in its design, but in its usability, very disappointing. I know I talk too much, and I know I rabbit on about that interior, but see that interior, that's really annoyed me with this car. I've really annoyed me. And you'll understand why when we get to the pricing section. Right, batteries. Okay, you can have a choice of batteries with this car. You start off with a 52 kilowatt hour standard range car, and that should give a WLTP range of up to 243 miles. Okay, single motor car. And it's the least powerful car as well, 170 PS from memory. That is a charging speed of 145 kilowatts, okay? And that does the 10 to 80% charge in 25 minutes. So that's okay. Anything under 30 minutes is good in my book, okay? So you're not hanging down too long. So that's all right. I don't have a problem with that. Then you move up to the 77 kilowatt hour extended range car, okay? That's a single motor car as well, okay? And that's 240 PS from memory. That's the car that does the maximum range, 389 miles, okay? So if you're a bit of a range monster, that's your car. 389 miles, they reckon you can get out of that. And that does the DC charging at 135 kilowatts, meaning a 10 to 80% charge is done in 28 minutes. So again, it's under 30 minutes, no problem with that at all. Then you've got this car, which is a dual motor car with 79 kilowatt hour battery. And that will give a slightly lower range of 346 miles. However, it does have the biggest charging speed, 185 kilowatts. So this will do your 10 to 80% benchmark in just 26 minutes. Now, all of those are perfectly fine in my book. Good ranges, decent size of batteries, good charging speeds across them in terms of the time you're waiting. So I don't have a problem with that. However, there's bound to be a however, isn't there? You've got to pay extra for a heat pump. You don't get a heat pump as standard. And obviously, with it being the MEB platform, there's no vehicle to load on the car either. Right. Now, this is the dual motor car that I've got. So the big battery dual motor car, 340 PS. It does 0 to 60 in 5.3 seconds. There are other cars available, obviously. You can have, with the smaller battery, the 52 kilowatt hour battery, you get a single motor 170 PS car, and with the other battery, the 77 kilowatt hour battery, you get a single motor car with 276 PS. But this is the top player. Now, as I said when I started talking about the design of it, I don't tend to go in for all this marketing spiel that some manufacturers pump out, especially about design. It's been influenced by this, and it's been designed to evoke memories of this and all the rest of it and stuff like that. And in fairness, Ford haven't really done that when it comes to the design. However, I am going to quote them directly here from the press pack. They say that the new Capri is or has the soul of a sports car in the practicality of an SUV. Well, I don't know what sports car that they're benchmarking this car against. If it was a 1987 1.6 laser Capri, then I'd maybe understand. But anything over the last little while, really, Ford? And this is my problem with this car. There's no identity to it. It is just another faceless car in this market sector. There's no real USP with this Capri. That's it, you know. At least the Explorer, you know, has a defined sort of like role. It's a 5-door family sort of like SUV that's not trying to be anything more than what it is. But they've really got to be careful, because if you're making big bold statements like you've got the soul of a sports car and stuff like this, just making it quick doesn't cut it for me. Okay, and it is quick, there's no doubt about that. You know, 0 to 60 in just over 5 seconds, plenty fast enough. Nobody needs to go any quicker than that in some respects, okay? But come on, the soul of a sports car, really? Right, let's get to sort of the good stuff about it, because as I say, there's nothing wrong with the way this car drives. Absolutely nothing wrong with the way that it drives. If you're driving around at the moment in a Volkswagen ID5 and somebody, you know, your mate chucks you the keys to his new Ford Capri and says, "Ever driving that?" you will say, "Yeah, this is a nice car." It feels exactly like yours though. That's the only thing. With a slightly firmer ride. That's what they've done. They've firmed up the ride. Now, this car's on 21-inch wheels, so there's maybe an element of that that's adding to that firmness. I don't think it's just the wheels though. There does seem to be a firmness in the dampers and the springs that you can feel. Not uncomfortable, but firm, okay? It's not quite as compliant as, say, you know, a mid-ranking Skoda Enyaq or you know, or ID4 or, you know, Ioniq 5 from Hyundai. It's not quite as compliant as those cars, so it is a little bit firmer than that. You've got different driving modes, as you'd obviously expect, which you've got to go into the screen for. You get Eco, Sport, Normal and Individual, okay? So in normal mode, it's pretty much behaving like you'd expect it to behave. Eco will obviously just dampen everything down. It means you've got to be more deliberate throttle. It makes it feel quite lifeless, and that's to sort of max out your battery. No, I don't really ever see the need of that, personally. But if I go into Sport, okay, because it's the soul of a sports car, go into sport mode, let's see how it actually performs, okay? So we'll come out of the 30 limit here and put a foot down. Yeah, it's quick, but it's not, you know, it's not grabbing me by the cojones and going, "Come on, Brian, let's go and attack a road together, eh? Let's go and beat up some B roads." Just feels like a slightly version of what it was back there. At least with the Mach-E, with the Mustang Mach-E, you've got that untamed mode where everything goes a little bit mental, everything goes a little bit mad. You don't have that here. And this is where I have this problem with this car. It's just, what is it? What's it meant to be? Who's it meant to appeal to? That's the issue, you know? There's those beeping noises. Remember I was saying to you, you've really got to delve deep into the menus to turn those off. That's a real big flaw for me in this car. But yeah, in sport mode, what I will say is the throttle pedal, again, most of the cars I've been driving of late, manufacturers seem to have cottoned on to this. There is more of a deliberate mechanical feel to it. You know, you've got to really push it down to make the car move. And I like that. I genuinely do like that. You know, there's a nice feel to the pedal when you want to accelerate. The brakes, well, you know, it's not, you know, they're not sort of like pull your face off kind of brakes when you stand on the pedal, but they're powerful enough. And the steering, there's a tiny bit of vagueness at the dead ahead. You move off the dead ahead and it seems to catch up with itself. So turning into a bend, you know, you think it's not going to do it, so you overcompensate and you turn in too quickly. I don't know if that makes sense. Like if I come into this bend here and flick it in, yeah, you see, it's like it catches up with itself, and it means you overcompensate. And that's where the seats come into that problem, because I do find then I kind of roll out the seats. I don't know, I really wanted to be, I didn't want to be the guy that turned around and just made a big thing about the Capri name, like everyone else seems to have done. I really wanted to say, actually, it doesn't really matter what they call it because it's a good car here. And in a lot of ways, as I say, there is a good car. There's a perfectly fine car here. If they'd pulled the ride sort of like height down a little bit, chopped 10 grand off the price of it and called it a Mondeo, there would be no discussion about this car. You know, pitched up against sort of like the Ioniq 6 from Hyundai or the Tesla Model 3, you'd go, yep, that's the new Mondeo. But you called it Capri and you've said that it's got the soul of a sports car, and it doesn't. It just feels like an average, medium-sized electric family crossover-y thing. You've kind of made a rod for your own back, Ford, I think. I really do. And I don't see why what this offers over other cars in the class that dare I suggest are a little bit cheaper, that dare I suggest do the job a little bit better. Let's just talk a little bit more about positive stuff, because I do feel like I'm being a little bit negative now. I don't really want to be. So the ride is fun, but it's not uncomfortable. The driving position is very good, and I do like all this dashboard. As I say, I don't like the switch gear, but that's by the by. I like the dashboard design, I like the layout, I like the screen here, I like the fact you can move it, I like the fact everything's laid out in a relatively sensible sort of like way that you can, obviously, because you do need to turn things off on the move. At least they're not, you know, whilst they're buried in menus, at least, you know, they're nice and clear, big menus you can go into. So that's a good thing. There's relatively decent visibility around the car, obviously with that slightly upswept rear end and that C-pillar area. There's that little blind spot there, but it's not horrific. It's okay. You know, there's a lot of cars a lot worse than this. And as I say, you sit nice, you know, in a reasonable sort of like high position in the car itself. The steering wheel, I feel like I'm going to be a little bit odd here, saying I'm just not sure about it. It's a tiny bit thin, I think, as well, but it's not, you know, I don't want it to be a big thick thing like BMW fit. It's all right. I think it's just a case of you get used to it. The weird shape probably doesn't help either. But you know, I've been driving that in sport mode and it just doesn't feel anything special. Why have they not done something special with this car? Why have they not really focused in on a niche and maybe given it an RS badge or something? You know, because you've got the Mustang Mach-E, the extended range Mach-E, which is a car like this. So it's competing with its own. Why have you, I just don't understand the point of this car. As I say, if it had been a saloon, an electric saloon called the Mondeo, then fine. If you'd made it really angry and given it 500 horsepower and called it an RS and stuck big wheels on it, and okay, it wouldn't matter about the terrible range then, because you'd be competing with things like the Hyundai Ioniq 5N, you know, and really give something a real sort of like blue collar champion, you know, for the EV masses. But you haven't. You've just churned out another medium sector, mediocrity of a car and called it the Capri. You've just shot yourself in the foot, in my opinion. One dull and uninteresting car. Now, I said right at the start that the name of this car, Capri, isn't this car's biggest issue, okay? It has two more fundamental problems than that. And this is the first of them, the price, okay? Now, just let me talk you through this, all right? The car starts at 42,000, just over 42,000 pounds, okay? So it's not a cheap car to start with. But bear in mind, that's the single motor car with a 52 kilowatt hour battery, okay? There's two sort of trim levels as well, select and premium from memory as well, which you can only get the select in that lower battery, but that's by the by. £42,000 for that car, okay? But Ford talk about this car as having the soul of a sports car and the practicality of an SUV, all right? So if you want the soul of a sports car, you're going to want the one that can get down the road quite a bit quicker, which is this, the dual motor car, okay? I hope you're sitting down for this. This car here is £56,175 £56,175 before options. And this car has some options on it, okay? It has the following options. Exclusive paint, blew my mind paint. Well, it blew my mind when I saw the bloody price of it, that's for sure. The driver assistance package, which includes a head-up display, driver alert, lane centering, lane change assist, active park assist, 360-degree camera. That's optional. The heat pump, 21-inch alloy wheels. That takes the total price of this car to £60,325. £60,000 for this car. Oh, and the warranty, 3 years or 60,000 miles. Ford, what are you on? Where do you get your ideas from charging 60 grand for this? That is absolutely bonkers. And here's its other problem. What is it? So Ford say that it's the soul of a sports car and the practicality of an SUV. Is it an SUV? Don't get me wrong, I get it, it's big in the back, you know, it's got good space in the rear, it's got a big boot and all the rest of it, and it does sit slightly hard, and yes, obviously this one's four-wheel drive, but is it an SUV? So if it is an SUV, is that what you're going to compare it to? And if you are, then you have to start looking at what, you know, it shares a platform with, which obviously is the MEB cars. And that's the Volkswagen ID4 and the ID5. Obviously the ID4 is probably more likely a competitor for the Explorer in that sense. But even so, the ID5, its coupe equivalent, that's going to be a rival for it. As is the Skoda Enyaq, which has obviously just had a big facelift. And again, you can have it in full-size SUV and of course coupe body style as well. Just as practical, and dare I suggest, better interior. Then of course there's the Audi Q4 e-tron. Now, if you were watching AutoEV for a while now, you'll know that when the Q4 came out, the e-tron Q4 came out, we compared that to the Ford Mustang Mach-E. That's another problem which I'm just about to come on to. But in terms of those MEB cars, the other car I was hoping to have here at the same time as this is another one of those with the coupe body style, the new Cupra Taviscan. And Cupra's very much the sporting brand now of that sort of Volkswagen group. And in terms of the interior, that is quite special, that car. Anyway, it had to be delayed and it's coming at a later time. But anyway, that's another car to consider. Right, the thing is, the Mustang Mach-E, okay? Because Ford already have a medium-sized, sporty-looking coupe SUV already in its lineup, which is the Mustang Mach-E, and it's a similar price. What? What? I don't understand that at all. I don't, and it's a good car. I really like the Mustang. I don't like the GT, that's too expensive and it's got too firm a ride. But the standard, you know, extended range Mustang Mach-E, what a great car. But anyway, other rivals you're going to think about possibly are the likes of the Hyundai Group cars. So the Ioniq 5, the Kia EV6. EV6, it's a brilliant car. The Genesis GV60, you know, premium badge of the Genesis. And if we're talking of premium badges, and we've already mentioned Audi, why would you not consider a BMW iX2 as well? That's a great car. I know it doesn't look brilliant, but it's a great car to drive. It's a BMW. But my big thing, and of course then the other thing as well is there's Volvo. I forgot about Volvo. Of course you've got the C40 Recharge. That's a great car. And that's my problem with it. You know, if I was a salesman with Ford and somebody's walking into the showroom now and I'm saying I've got between, you know, sort of like 50 to 60,000 pounds to spend, I want a sporty looking electric crossover, what's wrong with the Mustang Mach-E? That's a great car. So if it's not an SUV, is it a saloon then? And would you then compare it to the other saloons? Which, dare I suggest, I think is what Ford have missed a trick with. That's where Ford, I think, should have put this car as. You know, to go up against the likes of the Polestar 2, the Volkswagen ID7, the Hyundai Ioniq 6, the BYD Seal, and of course the Tesla Model 3. I just think by putting it into that coupe SUV sort of like bracket, when you've already got a car there, I just don't know what you're doing, Ford. I really don't, and I'm not sure you do either. So here's what we like, and also what we don't like about the new Ford Capri. What we like, its practicality. It's very spacious, and we do like its interior design. However, we don't like the fact that its styling is just a little bit bland. The interior switchgear and software is flawed in terms of its usability. It's way too expensive. But more importantly, for us, the car lacks any identity in a market that's already crammed with better alternatives, one of which already wears a Ford badge, the Mustang Mach-E. Ford have a massive problem on their hands, and this car does nothing but add to those issues. Now let me be very, very blunt and very clear about what I mean by this. I don't necessarily have a problem with Ford calling a car like this the Capri, much in the same way that I didn't have an issue with them calling the Mustang Mach-E a Mustang, as long as it's a real standout car in the marketplace. And that's the issue I've got here. This car isn't that. In fact, this car lacks any true identity. It doesn't really know what it wants to be. And the problem with that is it's playing in a marketplace at a price point where there's plenty of other choice, there's plenty of other cars in that market that do it better and, dare I suggest, know exactly what they are, one of which wears a Ford badge. It's competing with its own kind. Now, if this car had been brought out by a Chinese manufacturer that just wanted a foothold in the marketplace, that just wanted a little slice of the cake, you could almost forgive it. But it's not. It's been brought out by Ford, a company that has a long list of brilliant cars through its illustrious history. The Sierra, a controversial car when it came out, sure, but a brilliant car that spun off a rally champion, a touring car king in the Sierra RS Cosworth. The Focus, a phenomenally good driver's car that was just a regular 5-door family hatchback. The Mondeo, a medium sector like Retmobile that drove the way that it did and lasted through the generations, seeing off all sorts of competition. The Fiesta, a car that's just gone out of production, and if you ask any motoring journalist or any owner, it's still the Super Mini that others judge as being the one to beat. It's the car on the pedestal. This car is none of that. Let's hope that the Puma electric that Ford are about to bring out really does tick the boxes, that really does change the fortunes of the company, because I'm afraid their new Capri doesn't. At least by calling it Capri, it's given us a reason to talk about an overpriced, faceless piece of mediocrity, because as far as I'm concerned, that's exactly what this car is. Thank you for watching another road test review on AutoEV of what could be the very last Ford review on the channel. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, then please make sure that you are subscribed to the AutoEV channel. And if you have enjoyed it, give it a little thumbs up. Obviously, you don't work for Ford if you have enjoyed it. Let me know your thoughts as well. Have you ordered one of these? Have I got it completely wrong? Have I just missed the point of this car? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. I'm sure you will, of course. You always tend to do, but just be kind, yeah? Now remember, we're also across all social media channels, so if you're into your Facebook, your Instagram, your TikTok, your X, your LinkedIn, you'll find us there as well. And if you could give us a follow there, that certainly does help the channel. Now, maybe you're in the marketplace for an electric car. It might not be a new Ford Capri. Maybe you're thinking about, well, hang on a second, those used Ford Mustang Mach-E's look good value for money now. But you need to know more information about it before you go and buy one. How do you find out? Well, I'll tell you how. You stay on the AutoEV homepage on our YouTube channel, and at the top there, you'll just see a little magnifying glass. So if you type the name of the car that you're interested in there, then of course, if it's been a new electric car that's been in the UK in the last 5 or 6 years, we will have subjected it to the road test that actual car buyers trust when it comes to choosing their next electric car. And that, folks, is still the AutoEV one. All that remains for me to say is thank you once again for watching. Thank you for continuing to support the channel. I'll see you again soon. Believe it or not, reviewing another Ford. That might be the last one. Who knows?